Right, we're going to jump back up the scale again, I think, now. We've got a few really great project updates from Heljan. Obviously, last weekend now, I think it was. Yes. It was Model Rail Scotland up in Glasgow, and there was quite a few new samples that Heljan showed off for some of their forthcoming projects. We've got a couple in O to share with you today, and also one in Double O as well. So I think we're going to go straight in there with the Class 40. And we've actually seen an early hand-painted sample, which I'll give you a quick look at here.
And we can see here the original CAD image and how that turned into a fully fledged model in the bottom right there as well. This is the first version of this so far, so we are expecting amendments to be made to this, but it gives a really good idea of how it'll look once it's available on our shelves and available to send out as well. And this is in the BR Blue livery, so coming into the 1970s, early 1980s for these locos, but these really are a bit of a diesel dinosaur in the UK, really.
They really are. I mean, when these came out, they were pretty much the pride of the British Rail fleet as a diesel. They were used on a lot of the top-line services, and they saw use across much of England. But really, once it got into the 70s, they shunted them up into some of the more secondary services in the north and into some more mixed traffic services, and then they ended in use in 1985. Obviously, as you saw there with the Heljan model, we've got this early hand-painted sample there. I must stress that with this being a hand-painted sample, it is representative of how the model will look, but there are some amendments still to be made, and of course, it won't look quite the same as it will in the factory. But as I say, it does give you a nice idea of how this is going to look, and of course, as we saw it compared to the CAD there, it is shaping up to be a very nice model, this one.
And there's 5 variations of this available to order right now as well, in BR Green and BR Blue liveries. And this isn't the first time that Heljan's released a 40. The original model was released about 7 or 8 years ago now, and that was the original body style with the head code discs on. As we saw in the images there, this is the later body style with the head code boxes, so representative of the last, I think it's the last 54 locomotives in the fleet that were built with this front style as well. So if you've got a 40 already, you can have 2 that look slightly different. If you've not got a 40, this is a fantastic time to get one. And it's gone through a full upgrade as well. Heljan have pretty much started again with this, really. It's got full digital capacity in there, LED lighting, it's got a heavy chassis and the dual 5-pole motors from the previous model, but with a lot of finesse and body upgrades as well carried out.
Absolutely. It's, like we said with the O3 before, it's right up there with Heljan's current top standards for O gauge models here. As Dave touched on there, you've got your heavy chassis, you've got your dual motors, it's got everything you need to haul a really impressive rake and look great doing it as well, because the detailing will be improved on these ones as well. It's shaping up to be fantastic, these. And of course, as I said earlier, used across a lot of the UK, and Heljan is trying to cover a lot of the lifespan for, obviously, this being the centre head code variation. Much of the lifespan of those later models, obviously in the BR Green and Blue, so there's quite a few different options out there for different layouts. Now, if you want to get hold of one of these, you can pre-order it right now using that link in the description, and these are going to be coming through for $466.65 each, which for that size of loco, I mean, you're looking at probably about this big, aren't you? It's a big old beast, the Class 40. So, a lot of bang for your buck.
They're one of the largest diesel locomotives built for the UK, and because they were like earlier designed, they weren't quite as powerful as some of the smaller, lighter, but more powerful locomotives that came after them, but they really were one of the first, and they've got a big place in UK locomotive history as well, but only one survives with that particular variation of the nose end on there as well, so you can replicate that unique loco. But at the same time, there's so much you can run these with. They were used on express services on the West Coast Main Line in the 1960s, all across Scotland, North Wales saw them as well, right through the Midlands, various different freight traffic there. And towards the end of the lives, they did haul shorter freight trains as well. So if we've already tempted you with that shunting plank and maybe the Class 03, and you've got a couple of wagons on your order, you can add a big freight loco like the Class 40 and still have it with a couple of wagons as well. So some really great opportunities, whether you've got a large O gauge layout or you're thinking about starting something a little bit smaller. There's still room for a really big, like I said, diesel dinosaur as well.
That's it. Glad you touched on it. It is an important loco though. That design, you can see how that influenced some of the later BR designs. Obviously you can see similarities with like the Class 37 in there and things like that. Obviously the 37 was a bit smaller, but that general shape with the big bonnets on the front, it really did influence a lot of other diesel designs in the 50s and 60s, so it was quite an important loco. And I can see lots of comments coming through here as well, so we've got to get into some of these. We've got James Akers saying, is the Class 40 coming through in 00 or O? This one that we're talking about here is in O gauge. And then on that as well, we've got Emma saying, are there any 00 gauge Class 40s available? Now, interesting you've asked that because I actually looked up yesterday. Unfortunately, we don't have any new 00 Class 40s available right now, but as of looking yesterday, we did have a couple in our pre-owned section, and that's something that's always worth taking a look at every day. Just go out and see what we get in, because there can be a huge variety of different items in any scale, any era, even from different countries as well. So it's always worth checking, and we do quite often see Class 40s coming through, so it's always worth having a look on there.
We do, but at the same time, you do go pretty quickly as well. And one thing to mention, if you have got a 00 gauge 40 already, is we do sell the Hornby TTS sound decoder for it as well. So if you want to upgrade it to have that really iconic whistling sound effect that they're well known for, you can do that for a really great price at the moment. I believe they're either £36 or £38.
Right.
So if you want to put full digital sound in your 00 model, you can do so. Check out our website.
Fantastic. We got Jamie Smith says 4145 ELR would be nice in BR large logo blue.
That's the preserved locomotive.
It is,
there.
yeah.
That's the sole one. So they're not producing it in a large logo at the moment, but you can replicate it in the blue or the green on these models coming through.
Maybe one for the future. We've got Will Braddock says, love the look of the O Gauge 40, captures the look of it perfectly. Don't suppose there's any news on Heljan's 0025?
That's something we've not seen actually this weekend. We are expecting decorated samples of that very soon, but it's not something we managed to see over the Model Rail Scotland event. So as soon as we get some updates on that, we will be sending them around, and we have seen some updates on other 00 gauge items coming through, but the 25 unfortunately was not one of them.
Hopefully that's something we'll see soon.
We will indeed. It won't be long until we hear about that.
Absolutely. We've got Robert Scott, Wyvern Model Railway, says waiting for the weathered versions to become available, and we'll buy a couple to go with the unweathered ones that he's already got. We've got Jeremy Elsanka, says love the BR Blue, and then we've got SLD51, says Class 40s are classic British Rail diesels. Hope the Heljan ones will turn out well, and I'm sure they will, considering all of the other diesel locos we've seen from Heljan in the past few months. Right, so we've got another O Gauge update now. It's something a little bit different. Is one of the more unusual British Rail diesels out there, and this is the Class 17, and we've got another hand-painted sample to give you a closer look at here.
So this again, you can see the comparison between the first engineering prototype on the left and the fully decorated sample that we see on the screen right now as well. And as you mentioned there, these came a little later than the Class 40s we've just covered, but were a little bit more of a quirky design. Unfortunately, one of the least successful locomotives really to come out of that era. They did not last long at all, but they're still a really characterful look. Very unusual for a UK locomotive, that centre cab there as well. But you can just see the sample there rather than the painted sample really brings out some of the finesse that's being applied to this model. You can see various separately fitted parts, the full cab interior, the bogie detail, the sprung buffers, separate snowplows. I mean, I could go on for a while here.
You could just keep talking. There's so many features to talk about. It's like with other Heljan O Gauge diesels like we mentioned here today. There's just so much going into these now. There's a lot of different features, both under the hood and cosmetically as well. So no matter what you buy, it's going to look true to life. It's going to look fantastic here. Now again, that blue sample that you will have seen there, that is a hand-painted sample. It is representative, but there are some amendments still to be made there, and it will look a little bit different to the production ones that come through. Now, as you touched on, they were a bit of an oddball, these locos, weren't they? That centre cab is it is quite strange to the UK to see a design like that, and they did see a few issues when they came in, I believe. There was obviously, to mitigate the visibility problems, they had the big low bonnets on them, but they did kind of come into their own after a little while, didn't they? And they were mostly used in Scotland, but a bit of the northeast as well, so a few different operational opportunities there.
They did, but unfortunately the power units that were in them, the Paxman power units, proved really unreliable, and with them being quite non-standard as well, and they didn't really work too well with other locomotives. BR chose to standardise on various different items, and they were all withdrawn by 1971, and only one of them survives now as well in preservation. I believe you can see it at the Chinner Railway in the south of England.
Right.
So it is still out there, and it's proved quite reliable in its later life, but unfortunately not one of the best. But sometimes modelling is about representing the underdogs almost of the railway world.
Yeah, we've seen that with some of the other models that have been coming through this year, like the Class 21 and 29s.
Yeah.
They, not quite so badly as the 17, they had their issues and they never really kind of came into their own, but they still had their place on the railway. It's like not everything can be perfect, especially with BR at that time period. They were experimenting with a lot of different designs and they were just trying to see what would work the best. So there were some little oddball logos out there, some strange designs, some strange looking ones, but they have their place in railway history, and now you can replicate that on your layout as well. And now with the O Gauge Class 17 coming through here, that enables that in O Gauge as well as OO.
And as per the Class 40, they're coming in BR Green and BR Blue liveries, and are available to pre-order right now as well. If you check out that link in the description, all the details are there. Again, with the Class 40s, we're expecting the Class 17s around the same time of this summer. And again, with the Class 40s, they're coming in at the same price of $466.65. So a lot of similarity there with the BR Blue painted samples, but two completely different looking locomotives.
Absolutely, a few unusual ones there for you. Again, we've got lots of comments here. We've got Matt Slade says, love the Class 17s. Up and onwards says, good old Paxman 17, quite a number of engine issues if memory serves. So
Yeah.
definitely right on that one. We've got 700 Shunter says, the 17 is my favourite BR diesel class. It will go well with the Class 03. It certainly would.
Good pairing there, actually. A lot of the 03s did go north a little bit as well, so they would have bumped into each other in the north of England a couple of times in the 60s and early 70s.
That's it. We've got Tom Bohr says, it's like a US switcher with the centre cab. It does have a bit of similarity there.
Yeah.
And then we've got SLD51 says, again, with a bit of a Japanese link here, he says the 17s look a bit like the Japanese DD51 diesels, which is something I'll have to take a little look at after the show. We've got James Akers says, nice model of the 17. I can remember them, which is the one that was on Thomas and Friends when he was younger. Can remember how they often broke down too, really unreliable. Just shows the strange amount of realism that was in Thomas and Friends sometimes there. We've got 700 Shunter says, not sure if they want to get the BR Blue or the BR Green. Onno Mulder, stunning loco. Joe Light Railway here as well also says, fantastic design of diesel traction and like to get one in BR Blue.
And both of the samples you've just seen, the 40 and the 17, are coming through in O gauge. But if you are a double O gauge modeler, we do have 40s coming through from time to time in our pre-owned section. But if you'd like a 17, Heljan have got their double O gauge 17 available in blue and green at the moment, which you can order from us right now. But speaking of double O, this is one of the most anticipated locos coming through from Heljan.
Absolutely.
This is the latest double O gauge Class 45 peak.
And we've got what are the first engineering samples to show you right here, and we've got a trio. So I think on the left there we've got, which is just come on the screen a little bit bigger for you, is the Class 45-0 with the sealed beams on the front.
Yes.
And then once we go back to the other two, you can see there is a body shell sample and another engineering sample showing the 45-1 with sealed beams and the 45-1 with the split center head codes there as well. So showing off the big array of tooling variations that we're going to be getting with this model.
For one single class, the changes to the nose ends has to be one of the highest across any BR diesel, really improving and amending and changing throughout the lives. The original on the right there you see with the 4-character head code box was used to display the train's reporting number, which told the signalman what the train was, where it was heading and how quickly it needed to get there essentially.
Yeah.
But with computer systems coming in, they really didn't need those headed into the 1970s. So they actually sealed the fronts, hence now the sealed beam headlights there as well. And it's actually the first time that that model's ever been done accurately in OO as well, for that 45-0 sealed beam variation, but also the 45-1 variation, which has the electric train heat for powering the train supply on coaches, the air conditioning, that sort of things that came through in the 1980s.
As you can see from that prototype as well, this is shaping up to be a fantastic model.
Yeah.
There's a lot of detail already. This is just, again, this is just an early engineering sample here. Well, a trio of them, in fact. So it will give you a bit of an indication, but there's obviously going to be some amendments down the line and a few changes. And of course, when we see some painted samples, that'll give you an even better idea of how these are going to look. But it's shaping up fantastically. Now, from what we know from Heljan, this is going to have a really impressive list of tooling variations. Yes. As you can see just from the nose end types there, that's not all. There's a lot of different body style variations to represent the differences between the different locos, so you really can model exactly what you want to do. There's going to be a lot of detail on here, as you can expect. You've got full 21-pin digital decoder socket in there, so you've got a really great control level. And you'll need that 21-pin socket because it does have independent directional and cab lights. And if you want to get sound in there as well, there will be a space for a nice big speaker in there as well. And of course, you've got all your usual stuff like NEM couplings and a nice heavy chassis and everything else. So it's shaping up to be bit of a cracker, this one, isn't it?
And they deserve to be, because the Class 45's always been a bit of a fan favourite, really, of diesel enthusiasts across the UK, with them working express trains down the Midland Main Line and on cross-country services as well, right into the mid and late 1980s. They've always had a firm following from enthusiasts, and a lot of that as well is down to the names there, with the nickname Peaks actually carrying over from the Class 44 locomotives, which were almost a prototype of these, really, being named after various mountains and hills in England. But the 45s actually gained names of military sort of groups, etc., and campaigns and various vehicles as well. So names like the 3rd Carabiniers and things like that. So you got some really powerful army connections there.
And the only really reason he was still named Peaks is just because they look really similar to the 44s and then the later 46s as well. So it's an interesting one. I have spied in the corner of my eye. We've got James Akers in the chat asking why they were called Peaks, and was it because they ran in the Peak District, which is something that I always thought, actually, until I read a little bit more about them, and it is just the similarity to the 44s on that one, and because the 44s were named after different mountains. So,
but a lot of the 45s, they're being named the likes of Manchester Regiment and Sherwood Forester as well. So not only fans of diesel enthusiasts, but people who had those military connections as well. Hence, wherever they went across the UK, they always had a bit of a firm following there. They were one of BR's few locomotives in the 60s to actually have been named as well. British Rail had a policy not really to put many names on its locos, but these Class 45s were quite lucky to gain those. Get through the military academy almost and get these army names on them as well. So really iconic loco, and Heljan really making a point of a high quality model coming through there too.
Absolutely. Now, if you're looking to get one of these, you can pre-order it right now. They start at £143.65. If I was to tell you all the different livery variations, we'd be here for about 2 hours, I think. So the best thing you can do is go onto the website and check it all out. There are absolutely tons of different variations coming through in blue and green. I think there is weathered ones coming through there as well. As I said, lots of tooling variations here as well, so you can model exactly what you want to do. But what I should also let you know about is that we are also offering a renumbering and naming service in partnership with Olivia's Trains. So you can make any logo you want really here with that. So if there isn't something in the range at the moment that takes your fancy, you can get whatever you want, because we'll be offering that with Olivia's. And these are going to be due in towards the summer of this year. So we'll be looking forward to taking a closer look at them later.
We're expecting decorated samples as we go throughout the year, so we'll be showing those off as well. And as you mentioned, there's various different liveries, various different toolings, and for the renumbering service, we have given a full guide there as well as to what locomotives are suitable for what tooling variations as well. So if you're not quite sure, head over to the website and look at that list. But then again, if you need that little bit more info, or if you do have a personal favourite, do get in touch with us and we'll guide you to the right one for you.
Absolutely. Couple of quick comments here as well. We've got Clive Cobbold says, like the look of the 45 locos. Next Heljan locos will be 2 of the 86 Zeros in BR Blue from Hattons. Arno Mulder says, will the 45 be available in Dutch livery? That's not one at the moment, unfortunately, but
it's not a locomotive they actually carried in real life, livery they carried in real life there. So they were all withdrawn in the BR Blue livery, apart from one that got repainted green just to sort of commemorate the start and the end of the Class 45 story. But again, it's not to say you can't paint your own in that livery. A couple of them did enter the departmental service in the late 1980s and were used on ballast trains, and it was almost the case that they got painted in the Dutch livery. Unfortunately, it never happened, but it was pretty close to happening, so you can make that happen on your layout, which was almost about to happen in real life, but can happen on your layout.
That's it. We've got one more question here. Bob Peterson says, I missed the start, so how much are the O-scale O3s in front of you? These are $335.75 each, and you can check out the link in the description for those. Oh, and sorry, we've got one more here from SLD51, and he just asks, can you give us a bit more information about the Olivia's Train service? So basically, like I say, as there's so many different variations in toolings coming out, we are going to be able to offer renumbering and naming with Olivia's Trains. So if you head to our website, you can see a full list of what can be produced. And as Dave pointed out, we do have a separate article as well that tells you about what locomotive you need to get to produce the real life locomotive of your choice. So if you do check out our website, you can find out all you need to know.
And they will be done to really high quality as well. Olivia's trains do a lot of renumbering, but at the same time we'll be making sure of that quality as well. They'll be using the accurate numbering transfers, putting the numbers in the right places and locations. Any of the finer details they'll be attending to. Any of the locomotives that are named will be getting full etch nameplates pre-applied as well, so it'll be almost as if you're getting your own custom model from a factory, really. You won't be able to tell the difference. So if you've got a favourite that's not on the main list of what they're bringing through, but as you said, there's a lot that's coming through,
Absolutely.
do check out that renumbering service, as pretty much the whole fleet is possible.
That's it.